Privilege that makes independence, that makes individual, does not make friendship. Friendship is founded on poverty, that there is something about you that desires to express something that lives inside you to another, and you find the other trustworthy, close enough. Poverty. You know, in Iran, because of the social climate, it may be hard for you to imagine this, but it's very true, it still is, that you have pockets of people, 5 here, 2 here, because again of the poverty that society and the politics creates for people. They stand together, these are complete strangers, and yet they stand for hours and talk politics and talk about the social issues. And then one of them says, I'm gonna go get some tea and bring. Everybody sits and drinks tea, eats food. At least that's what I remember from my time and generation. Those things may not exist, but I doubt. I think they still do. You know, if you have the privilege of sitting in your room and doing your work and coming out once in a while, the poverty you have is, I've been locked up in this room for 5 hours, I just need some fresh air, I need the change of scenery. You're not going out there to create friendships, to become intimate with anyone on an emotional stage. You know, you just kind of want a rest area for 5-10 minutes, and then you're going to go back to your home. You know, and if you kind of go back to the fact, at least for me, that you have, you know, a physical human being, and you have an emotional human being, and then you have a psychological human being, and then you have an intellectual human being, and then you have a spiritual human being. It's not very difficult to become friends with people of the body. There are lots of things out there that you can pursue and have fun. But when you say to yourself, I am looking for people with specific emotions, whether those emotions are of sadness or trauma or despair or depression, whatever the case may be, you're no longer looking for friendships down here, people of the body, looking for specific emotions. Then you say, I'm looking for people who know a little bit about Immanuel Kant or Ramana Maharshi. Now you're looking at a different set of people with whom you want to kind of create friendships with. And then there is a spiritual part. And as you move up, it becomes a bit more tricky. You know, the other thing is, you know, despite the fact that all of us were really close and intimate friends, the 4 of us or 3 of us that would go to Hussein, because the degree of our intensity was almost on the same, you know, platform, and we all went to Hussein's house in a relatively sad and sorrowful mood, nobody ever laughed. Because one of the things that, you know, when I think back, I realized that because we had so much respect for the environment, for the people there, Hussein and Mirdad, okay, and myself, nobody had a belly laugh. It just didn't happen. You know, there is this thing in the Naqshbandis, the 8 steps. One of them is called Yad Bud. Yad Bud means to remember. And to remember means this. In privilege, you always forget. You always become callous. You always become forgetful. And then you overstep your boundaries. And I remember even, you know, Saeed's sister, Maheen. I think she came to the gathering maybe twice or 3 times. Now, outside of the gathering, her and I would kind of joke around once in a while. And Saeed would also instigate. You know, he would make things worse. But at the gatherings at Hussein's house, it was as if we were complete strangers. She didn't joke. She didn't chatter. She just said, Amir, how are you doing? How are your parents? That was it. And all of us kind of waited silently until Hussein would kind of come in and sit on the sofa. There are lots of movies where there are men who are going to a meeting, or there is a women's shelter where all these women are sitting. One movie, it's a really good movie, and I watch it once in a while because this woman goes on this journey to kind of destroy everyone, or all the men. Women call her and they say, my husband or my boyfriend is hitting me or doing ABCD to me. And she's a martial artist, she's really good at combat training. And so she kind of puts a face mask on, figures out where this man is, goes and beats him up. But the point I'm trying to make is that, so you have this woman who goes to this meeting, there are like 10, 15 women, and they all come from, you know, an environment where the male figure in their life has been very abusive, physically, verbally, emotionally. And so you don't find any of the women as they're sharing their stories to be laughing. Most of them are in a very depressed mood. You can feel the sadness in their voice. They're always just crying as they're sharing the stories. And as the other women are sitting and just hearing all of these, they also cannot but have a very sad demeanor to them. No one like cracks a joke. No one like makes fun of someone's experiences. Nobody throws a red herring or a conversation that kind of takes the community to a different environment. People are there to share their tragic stories. That's the way they find release. That's the way they find balance and health. So there is no one there who's going to jeopardize that. I remember in the 10 years of our gatherings, I only joked once. And that one time, Hussein looks up, and I said something about Krishnamurti, because Krishnamurti was all about, you don't need a teacher, you can figure things out on your own, pay attention, mindful. And this was near the end of my relationship with Hussein as a student teacher. And I cracked a joke. And Hussein kind of just looks up and says, you don't think I can tell jokes? You don't think I'm funny? You think like we're, not serious here? And, I didn't really grasp or understand the immensity of what I had done and what he was saying. Many years passed by where I think back and I say, well, at what stage do you kind of, when an environment is serious, for example, at what stage in your own life or maturity, I can't say maturity, but in your own intellectual life, do you just crack a joke that's uncalled for? It's because you no longer see the people the way you should. You no longer see Hussein the way you used to. You no longer see the journey or the path, or you're no longer intimate with the ideas the way you used to. You no longer have the longing. You're a bit more comfortable. And that creates a good amount of privilege. And privilege always allows you to cross lines, to say things, do things, behave in ways that are inappropriate. It's like going to a funeral service and just sitting and laughing. If you're a mother, that's fine, because sometimes that's the way you kind of express pain. But if you're a complete stranger, where the mother has just lost a son, it's a place where people have a good amount of sorrow inside them, and you should be mindful of that.